Okay, good morning. Back at it again for our CONY and our MSTY. Let me pull up CONY. So there were 3 trades today in both CONY and MSTY. So basically a synthetic call, right? They went out and bought 310 on their current synthetic, which is the 260 out in May 17th. So you had to buy a call and sell short the put, and then separately they went out with only 2 days left. They chose next week 5/3 for the expiration at $255 on coin. So let's go take a look at what that looks like. So let's start with, it was a down day, right? We went down 5.10 in our underlying Coinbase, and we were only down about half that, 2.53. So kudos. All right, actually this was my blessing. If I could have picked, I would have said let's maybe go to 227, just some period that we won't get back to in a day. While we wanted to go up, we want to collect that 7.2 million that's setting out here, right? There's 7.2 right there, and there's another 75. So I color coded these. My orange ones are the 426s, so we have 10,000, the bulk of them. We got $3.85. For 10,000 times 100 times 385, right? That's 3.86 million. Then 7690 of them generated 3.3 million. So look at where those strikes are. 335, 235 and 232.50. Well, yesterday we closed at 236, so I harped on you guys about hoping we pull back a little. We can bounce one of the 2 days, but I don't want them to run by. I want to collect that 7 million. So we've already collected it. I don't want to lose it. I want to keep our payment $1.50 or above, right? And it could get up to $2. So we sold 310 of these new expiring on 5/3. Right? Now remember, on the morning of 5/3 we declare. So if we're doing well with these, it's 249, but this week really determines a lot, right? And if more money flows in, we're gonna have to do more synthetics. So let me show you how that looks. So there's the 310 on the weekly call. Let's go out and look at our 260 synthetic. Okay, so the synthetics are a good deal for us because we collect more on the puts. And why is that than the calls? Because we're underneath our 260, right? MSTY has a different situation there. We're ahead of the game there, so we spend more for our calls than we do our puts. But our synthetic is up pretty good, right? Here, we're back to 62 million in the hole, and I'll show that more on our holdings page. But it actually is what the doctor ordered, in my opinion. I'd rather see us pull back, get our weekly, and then have these guys maybe next week write a pretty substantial weekly. Like on Friday, they're going to buy these back, right? And hopefully we stay under 232.50 and 235, and we collect that 7.2 million. You know, 230, 231, 232. Collect all the money, then write maybe a 255 or something for next week, because earnings are on 5/2, right? I think it's after the market. So Coinbase has its earnings. That could cause us to explode up. So I don't want to run by the weeklies. It won't affect our payout next week, but it would really kick into gear the synthetics. All right, so let's go over to the weeklies. We're in the synthetics here. So I also updated this. I wanted you guys to see what the ranges are, and I updated the chart. So here's our 310. Now it's the same strike price, but the reason instead of writing this as 610, they're different weeklies, right? So we're going to roll out of these in 2 more trading days, right? And this one has got 7 trading days. So I said the positives here, I moved this from a 7 to an 8. The decline today in coin, right, from 236 back down to 224 helped a lot on the weeklies where we've got 7.2 million at stake. So so what I did here was I simply just reflected on the 52-week low and high. For those of you that don't really track that or know about it, we've been as high as 283, and within the last year we've also been 54, right? And in CONY, some of you remember it going to 30, well then it pulled back to 17, went back to 29, came down to 22, and then we went up to almost 25, I think, yesterday, and then we're back to 20, lower 20. I think we were 24.86 and we pulled down to 20. So here's an updated chart. So see this channel, this bull flag channel? We had gotten right up to the top of it, threatening to break out. Well, the breakout will happen if not for a breakdown first. We really don't want to go below this lower line, right? Because we could drop all the way to 125. But there seems to be a lot of support in this level, right? You see this top, you see this top. So this 175 to 180 has a lot of support if coin were to get there. I think it'll maybe visit the midpoint here in between the 2 lines and then bounce. But earnings will be a key determiner there. I doubt that it'll break above or below before earnings, so we'll see. Again, I'm not really adding, I can tell you better than what a cap percentage means, to be honest. So we've got 18,300 contracts now. Let's go out and look at our holdings. Well, there was something on the cash, so let me take you through April and follow the cash out. So I put our share count in a different area. So we collected another couple 100,000, 249,000 by selling those calls, right? Some money moved around because shares were added. Now we can go see those, right? So look at our cash. We went from having 6 million to being minus 10 million. Some of that 16 million, 18 million almost were moved into this treasury, right? And 5 million was moved here. So that kind of accounts for that 16 million drop in cash. And the change in overall assets was 6.5. So let's take a look at holdings, and that's where some of this shows up. So here's all of our cash, right? And our synthetics, I updated my chart. I'm only going to go 4. I said I was going to do 3, but I really have 4 columns worth of data without having a whole nother tab and trying to run that. But this simply shows, so for 2 days in a row, we had an 80-something, well, 3 days ago on the 19th, we had an $83 million deficit in our synthetic. We reduced that to 60 million, and then we got down to 39.9, and then today we fell back to well, it was 40, I take it back, not 39. But now we're back to 62. So we're just about at this level 2 days ago, right? Went a little bit below that. So again, we want that to be a winner, but we have till May 17th. So what else on here? So you can figure that math pretty easily, right? You almost see 63 million here, right? If you had 63 to 19, you get 82, but it's slightly below 63. So down here are our weekly calls. Now we're doing awesome on these. Look at these. They're down to 21 cents. This one we just put on today, and I made it a different color because I wanted you to for it to stand out to be a 5-3 weekly, right? So here we now have, look at this, they're only worth $1.90 and $2.40. Now what did we sell those for? Let's go analyze that, right? So here we are with those guys. We didn't sell them for that much. We sold them for $3.85 and $4.40. So we're in the $1s and the $2 range, right? So we're going to try to let those expire worthless, right? As long as we stay below 232.50 on this one and 235 on this one. And only at 236.90 do we lose 100% of this, and only at 238.85 do we lose 100% of this. But I think if we stay 232, 233, we'll get 6.9 million-ish, 7 million out of this. So that would just be awesome. All right, let's take a look. Is there anything else in holdings? 225,000 shares were added, right? We went from 16.9 million to 17.125. So that was 1.33%. So people have two positive trading days, you know, and they go, oh, maybe it's better, it's time to buy, right? Well, what did they lose? 60 cents. It went from 24.80 yesterday. Depends on what they bought in at. That was the close, right? So now it's back to 24.26. And this pennies here have to do with how they, you know, when these happen. This is kind of like the average between the bid and the ask. So we call this a settlement price. And so there's a little bit of fudge room on there. But that's why sometimes you get a delta here. Like 24.23 is our actual, and we're showing net assets and share count to be 24.26 value. All right, let's jump into payments. That's what you guys care about. Okay, so not a lot happened here. We added a couple, 250,000, I think. We added a little bit here. Okay, so technically we're up to $1.29, and we have 245 in total. Now, it's rare that they ever pay out this number, the total income per share, because they like to save some. Well, we did save a lot last month in 50 million. So I'm being conservative. We've got for sure $1.29. Now, guys, that includes the 7 million, right? So 7.2 million. If we run past 236, it's good for the synthetics. It's good for the stock in a lot of ways, but it hurts your weekly cash flow, right? So this is going to drop back down to probably under $1, right? And you don't want that to happen because they almost always will pay this all out unless you have a big loss over here like Misty does. Okay? So I'm guessing $1.50 to $2 because if we keep this 130, 140, 150 into next week, maybe they pull 50 cents, $1 out of here. So I'll just keep updating. I say revised often, but that's as accurate as I can get right now. And justify it on any rational statements. Okay, let's move to our next one. Let's move to Misty. Okay, what did Misty do? Well, Misty closed down 3.46, but how did Mr. do? It closed down 5.45. Again, now we weren't threatening our weekly like CONY was. We still had some room to run, but the pullback didn't hurt us, right? So what I did here was I highlighted, I had them in orange, and I went over and I highlighted in yellow for the 5-3. So let me show you what trades were made today so you can better understand what happened here. So here is our Mr. and Misty. These were the trades. Okay, so again, everything matches. The first two are a buy call, sell short. And what are they selling short? The same strike price, the same put, right? 517. So we bought calls and sold puts for our synthetic, and we added 31 of each. And then they tell you, this is what's critical. This is what I don't get till later sometimes, or have a friend pick up, because they only leave it out there. Today they seem to leave it out there longer. And then you like to match this with some kind of weekly call. And they chose a 5-3. All right, so let me show you how that laid out. Now, since Misty doesn't have the same kind of share count, they don't tend to do as many contracts, right? I mean, CONY's got, what did I say, 17,125,000 shares. So they can easily do 225,000 shares. You don't see that come in here. Look at our. Although we have from 4.5 up to 424, right? We've gone from basically 2 million to 3 million. But your dailies don't get as wild. I mean, and obviously the percentage change is not that great. So anyway, here's what we did with this. We went out today and we wrote a 5-3, May 3rd, 31 contracts, collected $45 going out to 1430. And look where we were during the day. We were probably closer to 1,300 when we wrote this, because the settlement price, I can show you, we're making money on this guy already, right? Because it traded down further than when we sold this. So we're almost 13% out of the money. I mean, these were written well out of the money, but where you write them at and where they evolve to are two different things, right? That's why on my weekly, I track all that. So we collected 139,000, so that took us from 6.78 million in cash to 6.921, right? And we added 50,000 shares. So when we look at our cash, we were up 1.28 million, right? So you can see most of that came right here. That's 1.3 million roughly, or 1.28 right here in the cash. Everything else looked like it stayed pretty relative. So the cash came in here. So that's our weekly call. Let's go take a look at the synthetic. Okay, so on these synthetics, we're well ahead of the game, right? Did I update this? 1338. I'll tell you in just a second. No, I did not. I'll do that right now. Equals 31. Okay. So we're updated. We're down at 1265, right? So we had 11 million, almost 12 million gain in our synthetic. Now again, this one's paper. This doesn't go over to the payments area. So we had almost a 12 or a 12.2 win by dropping down. Our synthetic says we're only about 8.8, almost 9 million gain. But again, a book gain, not a collected gain. When we sell these, okay, or buy these, when we put them on, since we're well into the money, well over 1150, when we buy a call at this range, right, there's a lot of premium in there. So we're losing money on this side, and a small amount in our synthetic, but if we cashed out tomorrow, we would have this kind of a gain, right? So let's go over and look at how that impacts. Let me make sure there's not anything else in here. And then I want to look at the weekly so you guys can see what I've done there as well. So here's our 31. I call it weekly, active, whatever you want to call it. This is everything that we own that's not cash and that isn't a synthetic where they're paired together, right? We call these typically weekly calls. So this is our active weekly calls. Look at this. We're looking good because this is off of 1265. We can run 10%, 10%, 13%, and 12%. Obviously, this is the key one. So we've got 130 points we can go 10%. I mean, this thing could go 5% a day and get right there. I wouldn't mind 5% tomorrow and 3 or 4% on Friday. Let's see how it goes, but I'd like to collect all that money. All right, let's take a look at this. I updated, well, no, I didn't update it, but you can see that we were up the mid-13s and now we're back at 12. So the next bar wouldn't have really done much, right? We're even closer to the midpoint of this bull flag channel. And volume didn't break out, right? We're still down at the 2 million. We need 4 million and we need to pop, right? We don't want it to go the other way. The only thing I could see to do that might be earnings on Mr. And remember, Mr. has earnings on 429. But honestly, the reason they've done as well as they've done, more than just their earnings, is they own billions of dollars in Bitcoins. I think that they're by far the largest corporation to put their treasury in Bitcoin, right? All of their cash and treasury monies are in Bitcoin. It was pretty unique if you listen to Michael Saylor. The guy's brilliant. I mean, they took a big gamble doing that, but they seem to know what they were doing. All right, so that covers that. Let's take a look at payments. I don't think there's anything else to show you. Oh, okay. So on this one, there is a little bit in holdings, okay? I take it I didn't show you holdings. All right, so not a lot happened in cash. 50,000 shares were added, right? We're at, oh, I didn't update this. It's 3 million now. Let me just make sure over in my April tab. Yep, it's 3 million. So not a big deal. But every little bit brings in cash, right? The rest is accurate. I based it on, well, this actually should base it on 295. 1.69% up. So I'm getting a NAV that's showing 3208 and I'm showing like 3196, so it's showing us a little bit at a premium. I was wondering, these had a discrepancy before I fixed that. I didn't put the chart in place, but I have tracked. So here's what we've been doing, right? We went from only 1.8 million positive to 11 million positive. So we've been gaining in our synthetic, and now all of a sudden we're back to like 8.8 million, right? So I'll update this. When you take 15.4 and you take away 65, you get the 8.8 million here. So we're trending a little bit, just, you know, back the wrong way if I show you on the chart. But honestly, I want to capture these weeklies. So how much do we have at stake on the weeklies? Not the kind of money, but we've got 2 million, so about 2.2 million in money right here that we've already counted that we don't want to lose. Nothing substantial yet till we roll on Friday. The bulk, they'll roll this big bulk here into next week. So now we can go to payments and finish up, guys. Okay, so we're still sitting on this big loss, right? That just is what happens. Our short call income is looking pretty good, right? The only problem I have with that is we had 6 million to carry, but when you have a 32 million loss, and like I told you yesterday, I went in and I took a look at CONY when they had a big loss here and they had money in their short call income, but they had, I think they had $4 or $5 worth of loss there, and they had like $2. Well, what the fund did was they went in and took about 2/3 of this money. So that's what I've been showing, Okay, but the difference is, well, there really isn't a difference because this has this big loss. It's not CONY. CONY can use some of that to add to theirs. We really can't. But there's some good, and that right now on the books, this 32.6 is really take away 8.8, right? So that's 24, but it's still pretty substantial, right, on 3 million shares. So it's still $8, right? Even at 24, it's still an $8 loss on here. So that's what I think. I think we're in the $1.50 to $1.60 unless something different happens on Misty. I know a lot of people will be disappointed after $4, but those of you that have been in funds and been in CONY, you've been paid at $2.79 and you've been paid $1.07 on CONY. Those are the kind of the extreme, barely $1, but always $1, and then not quite breaking 3. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for education and fun only. Have a good one. See ya. Bye.